The purpose of this video is to get us set up with a DIY digital trunked scanner, as well as doing some other digital signal decoding using a very inexpensive software-defined radio on Windows. This is the kind of software-defined radio we're talking about. And just a heads up, you can purchase a specific and legitimate software-defined radio. They're pushing upwards of a couple $100, or we can go the cheap route. And as of right now, these are about $33, up from the $20 I originally bought these for. But in order to save that money, there are a couple of hoops we will need to jump through in order to get Windows to talk to these receivers. And that's the whole point of the video, is to show that these hoops really aren't that terrible. And my goal by the time we're done here is to have you set up and running your own scanner at home. So a couple things we'll need to purchase. Number one is an RTL-SDR. I'll have links for everything available, but this is a updated version of the dongle that I had purchased. The key to look for is making sure it's a version 3 or later. Version 3 has things like a temperature controlled oscillator, bias T, etc. And just to kind of give you a little background on why we have to jump through some hoops, these are marketed as an RTL software-defined radio, but in reality, these are actually a digital television tuner decoder for the European market. So when the trick we have to use in Windows is if we plug this into Windows, it's going to try to use it for what it's designed for, is digital TV tuning in Europe. So we're going to have to kind of trick Windows into seeing it as an RTL-SDR. I'll show you that hoop in a minute. Other thing you might want to look at is a cheap antenna. You can get these also from Amazon, I think about $10. And if you decide to purchase a couple of these dongles, you might want a little splitter for the antenna. I do recommend getting, if you can, at least 2 of these little dongles, and I'll show you the benefit of that when we get deeper into the scanner itself. If you do get a couple of the RTL dongles, you might want to get a little hub. Again, Amazon has everything there, and I'll have a list of a shopping list for you available. And once again, if you wanted to bypass the hoops we need to jump through, you can go and get a legit one, and you can see the price here compared to the price here. So the whole point is to kind of save some money. Outside of the actual hardware, we're going to need a little bit of software. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be installing SDR Trunk. And our magic program is called Zadig. I will show you how that works. And then we'll have some actual software for the non-trunk system is going to be SDR Sharp virtual audio cable. And I'll go through all of this for you step by step. Now, going over to Windows here, let me go back to my camera. We're going to need to, like I said, download the software. I've got everything here in my downloads folder to make it easier for us. But the very first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to run this little program here called Zadig. What it does is it is going to force Windows to see these devices as an SDR. And here's the process for it. You simply double click to run the program. It will give you an error because why not? And we're not going to look for any updates. So right now, we're going to see that it's not recognized as devices because, well, we don't have them plugged in. So what I'm going to have us do is we're going to plug the device in, but I'm going to recommend go ahead and plug both of them in if you have multiples, because we need to do this process for each of the dongles. They're serialized, and Windows will recognize, hey, when this serial number device is in here, use this driver, okay? So now that we have them plugged in, you may see them show up. If you don't, simply go to Options and List All Devices. What we're looking for is bulk interface. Forget all these other ones. bulk interface 0 and bulk interface 1. These are our devices that we're going to update the driver for. I'm going to start with interface 0, and all I'm going to do is click on install the driver and give it a couple minutes. Again, what this is doing is it's going to tell Windows, forget what you know about this device, it is now a software-defined radio. The good thing is we only need to do this one time. From now on, when you're using Windows and you plug in the device, it will know which driver to use, and the hard part will have been done. It does take a couple minutes, just be patient with it. Okay, looks like the first one's finishing up. And we're going to jump in and do the second one. That's going to be bulk interface 1. That's if you have multiple dongles to update. Same thing, it's going to take a couple of minutes. Just be patient. And reminder, if you have a legit software-defined radio, you won't have to do this. The Windows knows to recognize them for what they are. Cool beans. This one's almost done. And we are now ready for the next step. We're going to go to SDR Trunk. Okay, let's go ahead and unzip this. Extract it wherever you want, because you're not actually installing the software. You're just going to run it from a folder. I'm just going to do it right here in my downloads folder. Again, you can put it wherever you want. I'm trusting you know how to unzip files. So you're going to get to see the initial setup of SDR Trunk. I'm going to go into the folder. We're going to look for the bin, the binaries folder. Go into the bin. And we are going to scroll down and look for SDR Trunk batch file. Not the executable, but an actual batch file. It'll actually get things up and running for us. So now that I have the dongles plugged in, I can get rid of that for you so you can actually see this running. It's going to run through a little bit of some background processes, and we're up and running. Now, the first thing it's going to have you do is perform a CPU calibration. Go ahead and run it, and just let it run in the background. There's going to perform some calibrations to make sure that what kind of CPU you have, how quick it is, and such. Just let it do its thing. What we're interested in right now is the fact that we have a waterfall. That means the software is seeing the devices as SDR dongles. So, yay, we did it. Nothing's playing because I have nothing set to play. So I can click around and do whatever I want and nothing's going to work. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to go into my playlist editor and tell the dongles where to go. Okay. Now we're doing SDR Trunker, so we're going to set up a trunked radio system. As a refresher, let me go to radioreference.com. That's where you want to go to get some frequencies. So radioreference.com. If I spelled it correctly, I actually didn't even type it in the right place. radioreference.com. Wow. Stop watching me type and I won't make so many mistakes. How's that? There we go. So I'm going to be looking into the radio database, and I'm going to be looking for, I'm going to be browsing Montana, Cascade County, and I'm looking for our trunked systems. Under my trunked systems, I'm interested right now in the Montana Public Safety Communication System. And here we go. I'm going to go over to county and sort it by county just to make it a little bit easier for us. And you'll see there are a bunch of frequencies. Take note, the frequencies are in red are the control channels. The way trunking works is, let's say an officer or a fireman or whatever keys up the radio to talk to dispatch. The control channel will see which frequency is available, and it will assign that frequency for that communication. The next they may key up, that frequency might be in use, but that's okay. The control frequency will send them somewhere else. So what we're going to do is we're going to be kind of monitoring this control frequency and let the software do all that jumping. So what I'm interested in right now is 153.860. That's the control channel we're going to set up. Now, here's where that second dongle might come in handy. You'll see there's also another trunk up in the 800s. One dongle does not have the bandwidth to catch both of those, but two dongles will. So that's one reason for having multiple dongles. Keep in mind, a lot of these trunk frequencies are going to be redundant. So if you're listening to multiples, you might hear some repeat traffic. You'll figure it out pretty quick. Okay, so we're going to go to my playlist editor. And we're going to set up this channel. And what I'm going to do over here to the right, I'm going to click on New Phase 2 Trunk System. Not Phase 1, Phase 2 Trunked System. I'm just for today, I'm going to call this EMS 1. As you use this software, you're going to see that there's a lot of customization you can do, a lot of tweaks you can do. I'll leave that up to you. I'm going to put in that trunk frequency. And what I can do is I can have this auto start this when I run the program, which I'm going to go ahead and do. And when I hit play, it's going to give me another alert, because remember, we're not fully set up yet. I'll save those changes, and then it's going to tell me, well, wait a minute, I don't have my decoder set up yet. So we're going to go ahead and allow it to set up this Java library underneath, and that's going to configure Windows to be able to use the decoder. We're going to create our library. It's going to give me another message. There's an update available. Would you like to download it? Sure. Why not? And when we do so, let's go ahead and create this library. And yes. So what this will do is allows us to decode those P25 encoded signals, keeping in mind that it will decode P25, it will decode DMR, but it will not decode encrypted P25 or encrypted DMR. It does not contain those decryption keys, just because, well, it's against the law. So you may notice whenever we get things running here that the police transmission may come across as encrypted and you won't hear anything. So let's hit play and let's see what we have. You'll see our control has picked up the frequency we gave. And as we get traffic, we should hear it decoding. There we go. We have something decoding. Okay, I'll let you play around with that. You can put in a couple of control frequencies like we talked about. But here's one other thing I want to show you. Let's go ahead and let's add in a DMR channel. So back to our radioreference.com, I'm going to go back here a little bit. And instead of the Montana Public Safety, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the refinery. And we'll notice that there are no red frequencies. This is not using a traditional trunk. This is using a DMR system, and you'll have time slot 1 and time slot 2. The cool thing about this is if someone's transmitting on both time slots, time slot 1 will come out of left speaker, time slot 2 will come out of right speaker. So let's go ahead and set these up. I'm going to add this frequency to my playlist editor. I'm going to add a new DMR system. I'm going to call this Refinery 1. And just because I could change this later if I wanted to. We're going to go ahead and save that. And then I'm going to pick up Refinery 2, or time slot 2. I'm going to add it. Again, we're going to add a new DMR. This will be Refinery 2, or whatever you want to name it. It's going to be your system after all. And we're going to save that. Now, I can now play these DMR channels alongside. So you probably hear the refinery coming through the speaker. So you see time slot 1 and time slot 2 are being used. And if you go to our tuners, you'll see that right now that first dongle has got 3 of the signals locked. The trunks line, and then time slot 1 and 2, and then as they're talking, it's picking up with the second dongle. So it makes it really nice having a couple of dongles here. I'm going to go ahead and stop everything and let you know, congratulations, you have set up trunked radio on Windows. It's that easy. But wait, there's more. What we're going to do now is we're going to move on to picking up and decoding other signals. So what we want to do is we're going to use non-trunk systems, and we're going to be able to decode digital radio such as D-Star, DMR, C4 FM Fusion. You can also listen to non-digital radio such as the air traffic control tower, whatever. So this is going to enable you to do that. This one's a little more detailed, but it's a lot easier than it used to be. So let me explain. We're going to be installing SDR Sharp, and that's the software that comes with a software-defined radio device. That software is then going to tune into a frequency that we tell it to, and it's going to send that audio over to another program called DSD Plus, Digital Signal Decoder Plus. That is going to do all of the conversion from digital into analog. You can use just that program, the DSD Plus, on its own. It's all manual. It's works super well, but it is potentially beyond a newbie's ability, to be honest with you. So by using SDR Sharp, it kind of is bundled in with it, and it'll make it a lot easier. Now, the trouble with this is, in order to get SDR Sharp to take its audio and put it into DSD Plus, we need to use what's called a virtual audio cable. So I've included right here, we're going to go ahead and right-click and extract it. VBCable. I'm going to go down here. My system is 64-bit, so I'm going to run as administrator. And from that, I'm going to say, yes, install please. And install the driver. And we're done. We may need to reboot to make this work. But if I come down here to my sound devices and go to my volume mixer, no, not my volume mixer. If I go to my sound settings, I can see that the virtual audio cable is working. So we should be good here. Now, the next trick, we're going to get set up with the SDR Sharp software, keeping in mind we're going to be using dongles that are really not specifically made for this. So we're going to have some manual tweaking to do. You may have to do some of these tweaking, you know, after this video is over to kind of get things working the way you want it to, but I'll get you at least started. So I'm going to go ahead and install SDR Sharp as administrator and get it up and running. I'm going to agree to that and go next and just go defaults with everything. And you'll probably see here, it actually includes the plugins for that DSD Plus we're talking about. So this is going to be a very nice bridge to working with that decoding software. Just about done. And here we go. Of course, it has to install additional libraries. That's okay. It's just going to do it all automatically. And we're good to go. Let's go ahead and run it. Takes a second to load. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and allow access. Now I'm going to move everything over to the right of the screen because some other things are going to pop up and it might make it a little bit easier to see. So let's just do it this way. There we go. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's start here. Let's start with selecting our dongle. We have an RTL-SDR USB dongle. So select it right at this part of the screen. And then when you go to your configuration of the wagon wheel up here, it should pull the RTL. And it does. So we are good to go. We can use tuner 1 or tuner 2, doesn't matter. One thing I'm going to recommend is change your sample rate to 2048. And I'm going to set my gain kind of low. This is something we're going to have to come back and tweak to make things work. Okay, because if we're overdriving the audio, it's not going to get a decode and vice versa. So this is where we're going to do some tweaking, but once you get it set, you should be fine. Let's go ahead and close that. And let's start here. Let's start by just going to our local radio station. Okay, so you heard the FM radio coming through. So right now, SDR Sharp is piping all of its audio directly to my speakers. For digital audio, that's not what we want. Remember, we're going to have to send it through DSD+. So to do that, let's go ahead and redirect our audio by clicking our hamburger menu and clicking on audio. Over here on my output, I'm going to change it to cable, virtual audio cable right here. And unclick filter audio while you're here. And we're good there. Now we're going to configure our DSD Plus interface. So back to our hamburger menu, down to plugins, and you're looking for, careful here, you're not looking for a DSD decoder, you're looking for DSD interface. That's our digital software decoder interface. There we go. I'm going to move this down here just for real estate reasons. Okay. Now, where's our audio coming from? It should be coming from the virtual audio cable. So again, that's where you're going to select it here. So that'll tell SDR Sharp to send the audio to the virtual audio cables, and then the virtual audio cables are going to then send it to my decoder. So that's step 1, done. Step 2, we need to configure the software just a little bit. So click on your configure. You need to tell it where that little program is. It is by clicking there, DSD Plus, and we are good. While we're here, I'm going to click on audio device 1, and I'll tell you why here in a second. Leave everything else the same. Under decoder options, it's right, it'll automatically default to whatever digital audio it hears. It's going to try to determine what type it is and decode it. If you have a slower system, or if it's struggling a little bit, you may want to come here and just say, hey, I'm on a fusion station, let's just do fusion. But everything else should be okay. I'm going to click OK here. Now, before I start my tuner up here, I'm going to start DSD to show you why I changed that one setting, okay? When I click on DSD, it opens all these other windows, and it'll see right now that I have the certain devices, and it's set up to do virtual audio cable for my source and outputting to my speakers. If I would have left it at device 2, it would have just routed right back to the virtual audio cable. That's why I selected 1. All right, I'm going to move some of these windows around because you're going to kind of see what's happening here if things work properly. And I'm going to go ahead and go to, let's go up near where that trunk station is for the police scanner. I'm going to start my dongle, go to narrow FM, and go ahead and start. And I already see traffic right here. I'm going to try to grab. We're on our trunk, and our trunk doesn't contain any audio. All it does is it contains it's the control station. It's not going to give us what we need. And I already see I have some errors down here, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to adjust that gain a little bit to try to clean that up some. And we'll see how that works. Now I'm going to try to grab this here while I can, while they're transmitting. Wow. If it transmit again, I should be able to grab them. Then we can tweak some. And of course, they stop transmitting just when we need them to. There we go. Let's try to get. Okay. Do some tweaking here. There we go. Now we're starting to see some P25. When I start seeing some target activity up here, I'll know that we got pretty decent settings. I think I'm too high. Again, this is the hardest part, is actually fiddling with the gain to make sure that the audio isn't blowing out our decoder. And the other trick is making sure we catch them when they're actually broadcasting, so we can grab a signal, such as now. Again, I'm watching the lower left-hand box down here just to kind of see if it's decoding or if it's all garbled. And when I start seeing some just P25s with actual code here, and then really when I see the channel activity filling in, I know I've got my settings pretty darn close. Okay, I'm going to stop this real quick. I'm going to change my audio, and then I'm going to change it back again, just as a trick. That might have helped a little bit. Okay, well, you get the basics of it. This is where we're going to kind of play around a little bit to make sure we got everything working. Once you do, it'll work. And again, with the P25, it's not as vital here because we have SDR Trunk to use. The other way we can use this is going to, for instance, our ham radio. Frequencies for C4 FM or whatever, doing the same thing. You just land on there, running DSD plus, and it'll decode for you. So again, this will be the tricky part. This is the price of saving a couple $100 is working through our gain to make sure we get our decodes. But the goal is that will have got us started at least, and hopefully satisfy our goal for today. Our goal today being to learn how to set up a digital trunked receiver and digital signal decoding using an inexpensive SDR device and Windows. So again, hope this got you started, and have fun with it. Take care.